All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig in a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video, the latest from Brandon Aiyuk. He's posted another picture on TikTok. We'll discuss it next. What does it all mean? We'll hit it next. But first, we're brought to you by Pig in a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig in a Pickle, the best barbecue anywhere in Northern California. Get the brisket chili. Go say hi to Damon and Mary and tell them that Larry Krueger sent you. In this video brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Check the link in the description. Use the promo code KRUG, KRUEG, and they will match you up to your first $100. All right. It is first week in July. 49ers going to be going to camp in a few weeks now, just a couple weekends away. Brandon Aiyuk remains, his status remains unclear. Is he going to play on the fifth-year option at $14.1 million? Is he going to hold out? Or are the 49ers going to get a deal done and pay him something significantly more than that? $28 a year, $29 a year, $30 a year, maybe north of $30 million a year. How much of it will be guaranteed? How much of it will be fully guaranteed? These questions all looming. Will the Niners lose patience with Aiyuk and just say, you know what? No, that's it. Well, Brandon Aiyuk doesn't have a lot of leverage here. I think we've discussed this many times. He doesn't have a lot of leverage because the Niners have him on the fifth-year option this year at $14.1 million. So they don't have to do anything. They can just sit there. They don't even have to take his calls. They could just ignore him altogether and just say, hey, you got a contract. It's for $14.1 million. Show up and play. And force him to hold out. And he may go that route. So that's what they could do. And then if they wanted to, they can let him play on the fifth-year option this year. They wanted to play extraordinary hardball. They could franchise tag him the following year. They want to play extraordinary hardball and keep the player for the next 3 years. They can do it. They can get 2 years of franchise tags, though the second one's very prohibitively expensive. And 1 year at the fifth-year option at $14.1 million, and they don't have to budge. And so Aiyuk really doesn't have any leverage, and because he doesn't have any leverage, his only avenue to make any impact at all or put any pressure on the 49ers is to just go on this public display of I'm unhappy, and hopefully enough of that bubbles to the surface publicly through fans and media and people like myself that the Niners go, hey, you know what? Let's pay this guy. I think that's obviously Aiyuk's hope. So Aiyuk posted a photo of a Washington Commanders practice film during the team's mandatory minicamp in June on his TikTok. On Sunday, Aiyuk posted the image on TikTok. It's an image of Commanders practice on TikTok. That's what he put out there. And, you can sit there and get upset about it and say, well, why is he not, if he wants to be a 49er, if he told the Pivot podcast that his first choice is to be a Niner, why is he not putting out pictures of the Niners practices? Oh my goodness. Anyway, his future at this point is uncertain. He wants a new contract on June 28th. He listed the Commanders as a team that he could see himself playing for. Potentially, he said he would, it's the first thing he could picture is him playing for the Niners. But the second thing he could picture was him playing for the Commanders. And then he listed the Steelers. This is all was on the Pivot podcast. He currently has 1 year left on his contract after the Niners exercised that fifth-year option. So he's set to earn 14.1 this year before entering free agency next year. And he's one of 30 or 40 free agents the 49ers have. I think 31 unrestricted free agents. So they got a lot of free agents. This is a big, big year for the 49ers. If they don't win this year, or even if they do, you're going to see a huge turnover on the roster a year from now, because most likely because of so many free agents, and the Niners probably wanted to chart a new path at the end of the year. But we'll see. We'll see. All that is speculation. So he's set to earn $14.1 million this year. Free agent next year, though the Niners have the ability to franchise tag him. He met with the Niners on June the 24th. There was no long-term agreement reached during that meeting. Tom Pelissero of the NFL Network reported that there were no plans for a trade, though, following the meeting. So it wasn't like things came to a head. and now the Niners were on the verge of trading him. The report was, yeah, he hasn't signed, but they're no closer to trading him. And then of course the obvious connection between Aiyuk and Jaden Daniels. If you don't know it by now, these guys played together at Arizona State. They're buddies. And he's the Commanders' new rookie quarterback. And Aiyuk has basically stated that he thinks the guy's a winner, that he can make all the throws, and that that Brandon believes that Brandon can take his game to the next level with Daniels at quarterback. So that's what he said. I mean, that's what he said. He can spin it any way he wants to spin it. He didn't bash Brock Purdy. He didn't bash Kyle Shanahan. He didn't bash the Niners. In fact, he says he wants to be a Niner, but he basically said, hey, if I don't get my bag, I'm happy to play with Jaden Daniels, and I think Daniels is a kind of quarterback that can help me take my game to the next level. That's what he said. So I don't know. This all goes back, on June 27th, there was questions surfacing regarding Aiyuk's future in with the Niners after he told Daniels that they don't want me back in a separate TikTok video that we watched as well. So Brandon's coming off an incredible 2023 year. He had 75 receptions, a career high in yardage, 1,342 yards, 16 starts. He was a consistent red zone threat, racked up 15 touchdown catches over the past 2 years. And if the Niners can't agree to an extension before camp begins, the buzz surrounding a potential trade will continue to grow louder and louder and louder. Now, he skipped the voluntary offseason workouts. He also skipped the Niners' mandatory minicamp in June. The veterans are expected to report to training camp on July the 23rd, and we'll see if he shows up. If he doesn't show up, that's kind of an indication that, he doesn't plan on, he plans on holding out. As far as the Commanders and the Niners, you would think with John Lynch and Adam Peters being close, the two respective general managers, that they could probably get on the same page relatively quickly on a trade front. The Commanders do have several players that could be of interest to the 49ers, including defensive tackle Jonathan Allen. There's a lot of talk that the Commanders have shopped Allen, but they're going to roll with the 6'3", 300-pound, 7-year veteran this year. He had 39 sacks or has 39 sacks total in his career. He's had sack seasons of 9, 7.5, and 5.5 over the last 3 years. He's also been consistent as far as tackle production. He's had, right around 60 6 years in a row. So he gets mentioned a lot as a trade candidate because the Commanders have high salaries along their defensive line. Deron Payne's got a 4-year, $90 million deal. Allen signed for 4 years and $72 million in 2021. That's a lot of money tied up in your interior defensive line for a team that's in full rebuild mode and just drafted Johnny Newton out of Illinois high in the April draft. So the talk around the league is that Jonathan Allen could command $25 million per year under the current monetary climate, and that he may be shopped. So, Jonathan Allen is somebody that would be very attractive to the 49ers. There's a lot of talk that since the last regime drafted Emmanuel Forbes, that Emmanuel Forbes could be available in a trade. A lot of people have speculated that, that if the Commanders traded for Brandon Aiyuk, maybe they would trade a receiver. Well, they have Terry McLaurin. I don't think they would trade him. They have Jahan Dotson. He caught 35 passes for 523 yards in his first year, and then 7 touchdowns. He came back down to earth in 2023. He caught 49 balls for 518 yards and only 4 touchdowns. So he hasn't been as productive as a player drafted in the middle of the first round should be. So he's on their roster. The 49ers, I know Christian McCaffrey was passionate about the 49ers drafting Luke McCaffrey, and then the Commanders grabbed him earlier. But what happens if you said, hey, you know what, Commanders, we'll trade you Brandon Aiyuk for Jonathan Allen and Luke McCaffrey? Would you make that deal? I think I would. If he and there's other guys. They've got Jahan Dotson, they've got McLaurin, they've got Forbes, they've got Jonathan Allen. They also have Marcus Rosemi, Jack Saint, a rookie receiver out of Georgia. They got a good-looking young rookie tight end named Ben Sinnott out of K-State. Big defensive tackle rookie and Johnny Newton out of Illinois. There's a linebacker named Jamin Davis, who's got 1 year left on his deal, who could be attractive to the 49ers as well. In addition, I'm sure the Commanders have a whole boatload of picks that they could probably throw at the 49ers. Now, the problem with the Niners trading Aiyuk for picks is that the Niners are inside their Super Bowl window. So it's going to be an unpopular move among the veterans in the room if somehow post-draft they take, 2025 draft choices. That's not going to help you win games this season. So I would say it's, if the Niners are getting to the point where they would actually accept a trade for Brandon Aiyuk to the Commanders, I think they're going to want some combination of players. And, the more I think about it, the more I think Jonathan Allen and Luke McCaffrey might make sense. Or Jonathan Allen and Luke McCaffrey and, a 2025 draft choice, conditional draft choice that could be anywhere in the 4th or 5th round or something like that. I mean, something like that probably makes sense. The Niners can get by without Brandon Aiyuk. They have Debo. They have Juwan Jennings. They just drafted Ricky Pearsall. They just drafted Jacob Cowing. They would be getting Luke McCaffrey back. There's deep wide receiver drafts all the time. You've got other receivers on this group that they like: Chris Conley, Ronnie Bell, Tay Martin. The Niners could get by without Brandon Aiyuk. Obviously, Aiyuk is a special receiver. And even if they got Luke McCaffrey in his rookie year is not going to replicate Brandon Aiyuk. But if you could move him on, get a receiver to replace him, get a defensive lineman like Jonathan Allen who could give you a very good defensive front. You put Allen up front with Javon Hargrave and Bosa and Floyd, and you might have maybe the best defensive line you've had. So there's a lot of intriguing things here. But I would just say we're getting to that point where at first it was funny, then it was kind of cute, then it was like, ha, 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 he doesn't have a lot of options. Look, Brandon Aiyuk's talking on social media. Oh, now he's walking through the airport and he says he wants to be a Niner. Now he says he wants to be a Niner, but then he says he also wouldn't mind being a Commander, wouldn't mind being a Steeler. Now he's posting pictures of Washington's practice. I mean, if you're the 49ers, and if you're Brock Purdy, I don't know. To me, it seems like disrespect. But I guess it's payback because Brock didn't necessarily side with Brandon in the contract talks either. He kind of said, hey, Lynch and Shanahan are pretty good at finding guys, and I'm sure they'll find guys. So he didn't necessarily back his receiver, and so now his receiver backs him but is saying he'd love to play with Jaden Daniels. I think most 49er fans are tired of it. I think the 49ers only have so much money to spend. I'd love to see Aiyuk back because I think he's really a special player. I think he's a great receiver. In some ways, I think he's the greatest receiver in the league when you factor it for the 49ers, when you factor in how much they want to run the football and how much this guy is a dominating downfield, try-hard blocker. I mean, he takes it very personally. He blocks downfield with vengeance. There's a lot of diva wide receivers in the NFL that would never block downfield. Aiyuk makes a living doing it. So he's the kind of receiver I want to pay. But their cap problems are severe. And if his dream is to really play with the Commanders, I think at this point, I think I would see if I could make the best deal I could make and get down the road. If I can get Jonathan Allen and Luke McCaffrey and a conditional 2025 pick, I'd do it. I would absolutely do it. And just, eliminate the distraction, move on. It's a team sport. You're talking about a player who had 3 catches in the Super Bowl. This isn't Jerry Rice. I love Brandon. I want him here, but it's not worth all this headache. If he really wants to be a Commander, I think I have one more conversation with him. Hey, Brandon, what do you really want to do? Because here we got so many great players that everybody's got to take a little bit less. You don't want to take a little bit less. I totally respect that. Here's the deal. Tell me in the next 48 hours, if you're going to take our deal. If not, you said you want to be a Commander. We'll try to work something out. We'll get Adam on the phone. We'll see if we can get Jonathan Allen and McCaffrey in a conditional pick, and we'll move you on to your team of choice. We'll get a couple pieces back that are palatable to us, and we'll get down the road. Because right now, I'd rather see him. I'd almost rather see him. A couple weeks ago, I was in the camp of get it done, sign him up long term. Now I'm in the camp of let him play on the 5th-year option. And now after watching some of the consistent back and forth, I want to be a Commander. Now I'm kind of the mindset, just get what you can get and get down the road. And I like Luke McCaffrey, and I like Jonathan Allen. And if I could get those two guys in a conditional pick for Aiyuk, I would do it. Give me your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. And thanks, of course, to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this video. And thanks to all you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.